the only way I can think that I would have been successful without that would have been maybe if I go to some inpatient place where they look at food the same way that a rehab center looks at drugs and alcohol, you know. So there would have to have been no contraband there whatsoever and no way to sneak out and get it. Because God knows I did my clandestine midnight missions to Taco Bell when I was on my diets back in the day, too. So, um, yeah, man, I definitely would have needed a hardcore, watch guard kind of person to make sure that I'm on the up and up because it's so hard. I quit smoking so much easier than I was able to quit Taco Bell. Like it took me a couple times to quit smoking. It took me like dozens of times to quit fast food. And I cannot stress that enough. Couple times to quit smoking, dozens of times to quit fast food. The comparison is not even close. Food, far more addictive than nicotine, in my opinion.
Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to the podcast today. I am lucky enough to have Chuck Carroll on. And I'm so excited because Chuck's story, if you haven't heard it yet, is incredible. He is at one point weighed up to 420 pounds and has lost 200 of that or more. Am I right?
Yeah, yeah. 260 right now. 260 of them are gone. Yeah.
What a life transformation. To me, that is incredible. And to know him and to hear him on his own podcast, the Exam Room podcast, is it's just an honor to have you here. And since there's probably people who have not heard your story, I was hoping maybe that you would share a little bit about um, what made you go plant-based and a little bit of how your transformation happened.
Yeah, it is anything but linear. I thought at one point in my life it was like just losing the weight would be fantastic, and then life happens, and that's okay too. But nonetheless, I will tell you that my story begins at a very, very, very early age, and growing up in a single parent household, not a lot of time, not a lot of resources. So there were plenty of trips through the drive through. And, it just kind of got me hooked on junk food and fast food at an early age. And, didn't realize it at the time, but, that addiction would only grow as the years rolled by. And eventually it got so bad that I was eating 10,000 calories of junk food every single day, half of which came from essentially one trip to Taco Bell every day. There were some variances before I would get to Taco Bell late at night, but always, always, always the day had to end at Taco Bell. And the appetite grew bigger and bigger and bigger, just as my stomach grew bigger and bigger and bigger. And I never could stop myself. And I'll tell you, the craziest thing was I never added up the number of calories and fat that I was eating in a day until after I had lost all the weight. And when I finally did that, it was like, oh my God, I was really overdoing it. Like, we're talking about eating 5 days worth of food every single day. And thus, my 5'5" frame had swelled all the way to 420 pounds. It was a lot to carry around. A lot, Aaron.
So, and how old were you when you hit that 420?
420, I was in my mid 20s. So, literally on my 27th birthday, I had gastric bypass. So I would have been 25, 26 years old. Yeah. Just
Wow.
young. Yeah. Yeah.
And so what was this, can you take us back to where this light bulb moment was where you're like, okay, I gotta change this?
Yeah, it's like eventually in your 20s, it's like you see your friends and they're doing like big things and they're having these wonderful relationships and life is good and they're hiking and they're playing sports and they're just enjoying life and they're doing, all the things that I kind of wished I was able to do. Hadn't really done much athletically since high school primarily, dabbled here and there, even in, did some pro wrestling training and things like that, but nothing substantial. And I missed that. But then what scared me more than anything was having chest pains at such a young age and knowing that heart disease had run in my family, both sides of my family. I never met my grandfather on my father's side because he passed away of a heart attack before I was born. My own father was having heart issues as well. On my mom's side, my grandfather there, some of my uncles, heart issues and high blood pressure, and just, I mean, you name it. And so that is what I was facing. And I was doing everything in my power to beat everybody to an early grave. Didn't think I was going to live to see 30. And it's pretty terrifying when you can only walk 10 feet without feeling like an elephant is starting to sit on your chest, and knowing that what happens after that elephant sits on your chest is probably not what you're looking for. And when that's your daily reality, there's only so many days of that you can take before you mentally just kind of snap, and you either have a mental breakdown or you find the fortitude to push forward and make the changes that you've been putting off your entire life. And luckily, I don't know why, I decided to make some changes. So we're having this conversation today.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, what if you could go back now to that 27-year-old self, what would you say?
Man, I would say, boy, that's a loaded question. It's like, because for me, the question isn't like, what would you say to the 27-year-old? It's like, would you still have weight loss surgery? Um, and I don't know, to be honest with you, because that has presented its own set of challenges that I was not expecting, and some long term complications that popped up a decade after I had had this, more than a decade after I'd had it. And that kind of makes me rethink things. And having gone through what I've gone through in the past 3.5 years, it really kind of puts things into perspective, which takes us back to the what would you tell your 27-year-old self? And really, you can't unring a bell. So what I would say is just strap on, dude, because it's going to be a crazy ride and you're going to be hit with things that you will never see coming. But you're going to find out just how strong you can be at the same time. And there are three words that you're going to need to live your life by. And those three words are never give up. And I would just kind of walk away from that, leave 27-year-old Chuck like, what did that old guy, what does he know? He's crazy, but nonetheless, I think that would be sage wisdom. Strap in and never give up.
I mean, it's such, I think it's words when, as we get older, I think it's a good, those are good words to tell the younger crowd, right? It's like, I think they don't see the perspective that we have once you've been through something like what you have, right? Like
Yeah.
nobody can. No one's going to ever be in your shoes. And it's like, listen to us sometimes. We know what we're talking about. And that leads me to, how did you become plant-based?
This is perhaps the most interesting part of the story. If you could, put through pro wrestling and sports on a bingo card, yeah, I would definitely be punching those because that was it. I was covering sports for CBS at the time and was interviewing a professional wrestler by the name of Austin Aries, guy who has become a great friend of mine. And he had just written a book about his own plant power journey. And for a guy who's in this ultra macho kind of environment and having grown up in Wisconsin, the home of brats and cheese and beer, to now be living this really healthy lifestyle and to be excelling in his profession the way that he is. It's like, man, there's got to be something to it. And he gave me a list of documentaries to watch, and I did. And I was like, oh my God. So suddenly, what had been this weight loss journey for me uh, after I had the gastric bypass became a journey to reduce my risk of cancer, of Alzheimer's disease, of diabetes, of high cholesterol, hypertension, like all of these things. It was kind of a quest for as close to total health as possible. And once I saw that that was possible, it was, pedal to the metal and let's go with this thing. And I've never looked back.
How much better do you feel? Because I get this question all the time. People are like, why are you so energized all the time? And I'm like, it's because of what I eat. It's not because I'm on caffeine all day, which I love a good coffee, but I mean, the plant-based, and I know a lot of, especially we're talking about athletes. I think that there's such a trend right now. I shouldn't say trend, but maybe it's a trend with athletes that are coming, towards the end of their career to switch over to a plant-based diet because of the inflammation, right?
Hmm.
Because their bodies have been through so much, and because a plant-based diet helps so much with an inflammatory response to our body. I think people sort of miss that. So, what was some of the documentaries he suggested that you watch?
Oh, his first one was What the Health, that had I think just come out at that point. So that was on the list. Food Inc. was another one. Obviously read his own book, and then a few years later the Game Changers came out. But by that point I was already, all in. So that was just kind of a fun watch. But it wasn't too different from the same ones that everybody else always says, oh, yeah, no, I watched Forks Over Knives or What the Health or Food Inc. or, you name it. And that's what got me on the course. Like, I'm the same way. I'm as guilty as the next guy or girl about that, like, for sure.
So what led you, how did you, this whole exam room podcast come about? That's something I don't know much about. So you could tell me a little bit more about that.
I'm a huge believer in kind of finding a way to merge your passions. And I have loved broadcasting and media and entertaining from a very early age, like always gravitated toward that. And I was working in news as a reporter, and I just, like, it's fun, and it's a real privilege to be able to see some of the most incredible things with your own eyes as opposed to just seeing them on a TV screen or on your phone. And I really enjoyed certain aspects, but the majority of that job is spent talking about negative stuff, right? Mentally, it can be draining because somebody's been shot, somebody's been injured, somebody's dead. Grim statistics. There's a problem here. There's a problem there. There's only like so much you can do to motivate yourself to rise up every morning when like, all right, what story am I going to today? Oh, another kid got shot. It's like, do you really enjoy doing that day after day? And the answer is no. But I loved being able to talk and tell stories. So when I was still doing the sports thing, I had stumbled across this wonderful organization called the Physicians Committee, and they were looking for people to participate in their campaign for healthy eating. And I was co hosting a radio show at that point with a Washington Commanders player. And neither one of us were plant based, didn't know the first thing about it, thought that, vegan was kind of a, maybe like a secret cult. I didn't know. Certainly didn't know the secret vegan handshake or anything like that. So we decided we were going to do the PSA anyway, and that was my introduction to eating a plant-based diet. And I just kind of had filed that away for such an occasion. And when I just like woke up one morning and like couldn't stomach another day of delivering bad news, I sent an email to somebody that I still knew who worked there because a number of years had passed, and told him I've got this idea for a podcast. And 3 meetings later, boom, we did the first episode. And, within 3 years, it became literally one of the biggest nutrition podcasts on the planet. And, we're still holding pretty steady 10 years in.
Wow, I didn't realize it had been 10 years.
Yeah, it's crazy. We're in season 9 right now. So yeah, come January, we'll be starting our 10th season.
And what have you learned from some of your interviews with some of the top experts in the health world? Like what do you as
Oof.
a whole?
Oof. Golly,
I
hold
know
on.
that's
Like that's almost an unfair question. Because hold on, what show number did I just publish? I'm getting ready to publish show number 760 tomorrow. So,
oh my,
so what have I learned? How much time do we have? I
we
think
have
that the
27 minutes.
27 minutes. Yes. I think that I have learned more than anything. that the body can be resilient when it's given the proper tools to do the job. And, the tools, obviously a huge portion of that is what you eat, but also, how you live. You can eat all the kale in the world, but if you're still sitting in a chair, sitting on the couch watching TV all day, you're not getting the total benefit. It's you got to get out there and move your body. But that doesn't mean like if you're not into the gym, you don't have to go to the gym. Go for a walk, hop on a bike, just find something that you like to do that's active. And you're going to do great. And you just put those two things together, and it doesn't have to be any more complicated than that. You can go crazy deep into nutrition research till like your head just explodes because you can't hold another statistic. But at the end of the day, it is the simplest thing in the world. And this is truly what puts me in a good mood, is knowing that it just comes down to eating right and moving your body a little bit. And it doesn't have to be any more complicated than that. And, you can drown out a lot of the noise that you see. Just do those two things and you're going to be okay. And that's really the biggest takeaway, time and time and time again. I mean, you can drill down, like I said, into the research, but at the end of the day, you get those numbers by what? Eating well and moving your body. And that's that.
I think people just get so caught up in the minutia of how many protein grams do I need to have? Carbs are bad. Um, if I eat sugar or something's bad's going to happen. And I think people are the noise. It's so vast that people are it's almost becoming being healthy is could be a negative thing where you're constantly counting calories and worried about this and how many protein grams and where's the protein coming from. And I think it's just overwhelming to most people. And I love what you said, because if you're listening right now, like that's it. That is the key. It's like get outside, move your body, get some sunlight, um, make fitness a part of your daily routine, just like brushing your teeth. I mean, it is so simple. And make sure you're getting some good sleep and make sure you are, being social and doing all these things. But at the end of the day, it's not like rocket science. It's not something that needs you to journal every single piece of lettuce and count how many carrots you had in a day. And I think people assume that, especially in the plant-based world, right? Like,
It's
how are you getting your
hilarious.
protein and how much are you
It's
getting and
hilarious.
what amino acid is that? And it's like, just
It's
eat some
so funny
beans.
to me. It's like I would not have had diabetes if I had an eighth of a gram more of lettuce, but I was an eighth of a gram short, and thus I've got diabetes. And it's just no, it really doesn't quite work like that. But it's so easy to get like wrapped up in that kind of neuroticism and that thinking, and it's like it's so easy to go there, but no, like you got to fight to keep it simple, and you'll be healthier and happier for it.
Yeah. What's your daily routine look like?
Get up, and now I got a microbiome drink that I have every morning, made by my friend Dr. Will Bolsewitz's daily microbiome nutrition drink. Really good. So I have that, and that gets my stomach feeling like it's loaded for the day, feeling good about things, and then take the dog out for a walk. Have to get that sunlight in early in the day. This is a big tip that I found honestly only within the last 3 months. Well, only started paying attention to anyway, is getting that sunlight earlier in the day. And that actually sets you up for a better night's sleep that night, which then sets you up for a better day tomorrow. And so like it's funny how you can actually set up your next day right away just by getting up and going for a walk. And if you have a dog, it's the easiest thing in the world because you got to go out anyway. Just make sure that you're getting up and getting out and moving earlier in the day. It'd be easier to just let him out back in his pen and let him do his business. But no, like make the decision to go out and stretch your legs with the dog. And it's just so much easier. And for people who are just getting started, like a simple walk like that is a lot easier of a lift than to go to the gym for 2 hours. Like start where you're at and build up to it. If you want to get to the gym eventually, great. But don't feel like you have to go on day one. Just go for a walk. Easy as that.
So you get up, you get
Wait,
some sunlight, you take the
yeah,
dog.
you asked about my routine. Okay, I'm so sorry about that. I answered a question that wasn't even asked. But yeah, so that's where the day starts. And then settle into the workday with a good old fashioned cup of coffee. I do love coffee, but I've switched to decaf in the afternoons. To again help with that later evening and getting a good night's sleep. So, do that, and then it's just fueling up with like different foods throughout the day. Like this morning, I had some Ezekiel cereal, put some bananas in there, some fresh blueberries in there, a little bit of almond milk in there. It was great, right? Pretty clean cereal. And it's cereal for breakfast. Who hasn't eaten that? Boom, easy to do. Beans and rice and vegetables for lunch. Heat that up in the microwave from the night before. Boom, easy to do. And then tonight, I think it'll be like a pasta dish. Pretty simple, right? Easy to do. And then good mood foods after dinner, dessert. You got to look. All right, so let me tell you about your Cocoa Crunch flavor. Like that is like maybe the greatest thing in the world. And I don't put that out there lightly. Like that is one delicious snack you got there, my friend. That just makes my day. And oh, by the way, if you got a sweet tooth, these things will absolutely cure what ails you. These things are phenomenal. I've even gotten like candy bar hints, in particular off of the cocoa flavored one. It's just so good. It's just it takes me back to that same kind of feeling that I used to get when back in the day I would eat like a Heath bar or a Snickers or something like that. It's just a little something to satisfy the old sweet tooth from time to time. Healthier option that you've created. Thank you for that. Like it's so good. So
That's
that's
the
my
goal,
routine.
right?
Yeah, yeah. And certainly no 10 p.m. trips to Taco Bell anymore. So like that's also a huge part. And so I think honestly, maybe you've heard this too. Like it's almost as much what I'm no longer doing than what I'm doing now. So it's like I've crowded out all of the unhealthy habits and replaced them with healthy habits. So I get like double the impact. But if I were to have just stopped going to Taco Bell, I certainly would have gotten that benefit too. But doing this on top of that gets me to optimum performance. As close to optimum as I can get anyway.
When's the last time you've been to Taco Bell?
I can't give you the exact date, but I know it was 2008. Yeah. Yeah, 2008. So what? Ooh, we're coming up on 20 years on that, man. We should throw a party, huh? Two
Yeah,
decades Taco Bell
absolutely.
free.
I don't know if I've ever even been to a Taco Bell. And I don't, do they have, I'm sure they have some kind of option that you could eat if you were vegan.
Here's the thing. Like, here's the irony of it. Like, I will sit here and I will smack talk Taco Bell up one side and down the other, but I do have to give them a tip of the hat. They have a nice array of plant-based options that you can eat. It's really easy to be a vegan at Taco Bell. Super, super, super easy. There are people who are very well known in our little plant-based space who love them some Taco Bell. Swear by it. Swear by some Taco Bell. But I'm not
I'll
here to
have to
name
try it.
names. Yeah. I
I'll have
mean,
to try it.
at your own risk. At your own risk. I have my biases, and that's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah, I think I'd be so worried about like cross contamination, especially with like
Mm.
any kind of meat or dairy thing. I think it would just freak me out too much.
That yeah is definitely gonna be a thing. Having worked in a Mexican restaurant, not a Taco Bell, like an authentic Mexican restaurant, I can tell you like it's almost impossible to prevent cross contamination when you're making stuff on a line like that. So something to think about. Oh well, like I said, options
You,
available, but I wouldn't eat an
you,
Impossible Whopper either.
what?
I would not
You
eat an
would?
Impossible Whopper either. It's the same kind of deal for the cross contamination.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to risk it.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. And I'm not
Do
sure
you,
that it
I
would
mean,
taste good.
what?
I'm not sure that it would taste good anymore either. I think like I've probably lost my taste for that kind of like high fat, super salty food. It's just not going to please my palate anymore.
Yeah. Is it funny how once you do get healthier and like especially I mean, your life is an incredible story of turning it around to the most healthiest version of yourself. But it's like you hit on such a good point. It's like I crave like the healthiest foods now. I mean, I do love a good oat milk vanilla latte every day, but like every day for lunch, I mean, my salad must contain, 30 ingredients, and that salad is probably 30 grams of protein. People are like, how do you get protein in a salad? like I want to teach people basic nutrition, but it's like all you have to do is add some beans to your salad, some hemp hearts, some chia seeds. I mean, it's pretty easy, some nuts to get that type of protein in your salad.
I know, and
Tempeh,
I'm
tofu.
looking at you in your tank, and like you got like some guns going on that. Like, look at the yeah, look at you. Go ahead. I'm scared of you. Not gonna arm wrestle you anytime soon. No, ma'am. Yeah, like look at that. And you're right. I mean, tofu, beans, like lentils, like it's so easy to get the protein. Like a shocking amount of protein. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
do you think that maybe the plant-based movement is somehow talks to itself too much? Do that people are turned off by it? What do you think?
I think yes, to a certain extent. I think that it's a funny world that we live in, this plant-based world of ours. It is there are like little factions and groups and things, and it's just weird. It's like you would think everybody's united around plant-based, but no. I mean, it's like it's a Venn diagram, you know, and like you have little sects of people over here. You've got the completely SOS free, and then you've got SOS free with no stimulants whatsoever, so no caffeine, nothing like that. Can't be doing any of that. And then you have the people who are like, well, as long as there's no animal products in it whatsoever, we're good to go. Then you have, you know, the centrists, you know, and they're like, I do as good as I can, and you know, whatever. But like the people, when they get into these little subgroups, I mean, these are the hills that we want to die on for some reason, and it gets quite contentious. And it's just like, I think if you're coming at it from health, I would graduate more toward or gravitate more toward the SOS free kind of thing. But, you know, at the same time, I'm not going to get super carried away with it. But I'm not going to eat vegan junk food either. But you have to find what works for you. But be open minded and not so judgmental about somebody because they put a drizzle of olive oil on their salad, too. Like, we have to stop the infighting, stop the madness. Like, olive oil is not beef tallow, people. And to categorize it as such is doing a gross miscarriage of science. That's my take on the plant based movement in a nutshell.
Do you think that that is what turns people maybe off of like changing their diet a little bit is because they're like, I don't know where to start and like,
Yes. Yes.
yeah, I
Too many
agree.
options. Too many options. Too many people talking about it. Too many people telling you it's their way is the only way. And it's just like it's obnoxious, you know? And I feel like sometimes there's a lot of judgment as well. And I don't, I don't think that welcoming anybody to any movement um, through judgment is a great way to get people to stick around. It's like I'm constantly judging you, but you're welcome to be here as long as you're doing exactly what it is that we say. But we're always watching you, and it's just like I don't want to live like that. I don't want to be under like constant fear. Like this is crazy. Like live and let live, people.
Yeah.
To a certain
And life
extent.
is, and what?
To a certain extent, anyway. There are
Yes.
limitations to everything.
When you consider like, okay, I want to have something, I don't know, if you want to splurge or you want something that you feel might be like even it's in our plant-based world, like what's your go-to?
Ooh, a splurge. So, because food addiction is such a big part of my story, it's not like a massive splurge. It's I'm not going crazy with the latest vegan milkshake from Dairy Queen or non-Dairy Queen or whatever the case may be. Like for me, a splurge is something like Good Mood Foods, which can satisfy, those cravings I would have that in the past I would have filled with junk food, but now I'm filling it with something that's even more delicious and it's nutritious. So to me, like that's a splurge. But I'm not going crazy out there with like gobs of sugar or Ben and Jerry's non-dairy ice cream or anything like that because I do fear that if I were to reintroduce those things, the way that my mind is wired, I'm just like, you know, I'm just prone to addiction. And so I don't want to tempt fate. So I live in a black and white world without shades of gray for indulgences when it comes to food.
Let's talk about food addiction a little bit because I know you mentioned that and I know that's a big part of your story. For somebody that might be listening that maybe has some of those tendencies or issues, what would be a good piece of advice to share with them about how you were able to change the dialogue in your brain with food addiction? I think a lot of
It's
us have it.
it was hard. And this is kind of like, what also would I tell my 27-year-old self? And it's like, could I have been successful in changing my eating habits without having weight loss surgery, right? Like, it's not lost on me that I literally rewired my intestines just so that I could lose weight in 2009. Like, that's a pretty extreme route to go for weight loss. And I think that I went to that route because I felt like I had tried everything already. You don't get to 420 pounds without, having tried and failed a number of diets. And so the failed diets for me always trace back to a time when I thought that I could have just one. And I remember this one time I had lost like 60 pounds. I was doing so good. I was doing so good. And I was working at that Mexican restaurant. And I thought one day, like, I've been doing good and I can have just one nacho, right? We're not even talking like a Taco Bell nacho. We're just a nacho. A nacho from Burrito Brothers in the Washington, D.C. area where I was working. And I had one and I lived. So I had another one and I dunked that one in the nacho cheese. I was still living, I was still breathing. And then that became more and more and more. And pretty soon I was eating a burrito, and pretty soon I was back at Taco Bell. And like, this is played out time and time and time again. So I knew if I was going to have the weight loss surgery that there was never going to be any going back to the food that I was eating. Like, I think that I had that stashed away in my mind, even if I didn't admit that to myself until the day of the surgery. And I was more than okay with that at that point. But I know that I have to continue to look at food the same way that an alcoholic would view, a beer, or an ex smoker would look at cigarettes after a number of years. It's like, if you have one beer or one cigarette, what are the odds that you're going to fall off of the wagon completely? And I would say they're pretty good. And so I'm just not willing to tempt fate after having lost the weight and regained it so many times. Like that nacho I was telling you about, it only took me a couple of months before I packed those 60 pounds on. Like, when the weight came back for me, it came back. It was like a tsunami of obesity that just washed over me. It was incredible. Just don't want to do that anymore.
What do you think if you could go back to those days with all these GLP-1 drugs, do you think you would have done that instead or no? Same path.
Probably would have tried it before the surgery. So the surgery was not going to be my first line of defense, because again, like, it's just, at least I thought it was irreversible. Well, okay, come to find that out, that's not always the case. So I had mine reversed earlier this year, but I think that I would have tried GLP-1s, and I may still have wound up back at the surgeon's office because I needed that 3 to 6 month window where I couldn't physically tolerate the food. And with the GLP-1, you can tolerate it, um, you know, but with the surgery, you cannot physically tolerate those types of foods, as your body is in the middle of that healing process. And so that to me was kind of the great washout period, the detox period, and the only way I can think that I would have been successful without that would have been maybe if I go to some inpatient place where they look at food the same way that a rehab center looks at drugs and alcohol. So there would have to have been no contraband there whatsoever and no way to sneak out and get it. Because God knows I did my clandestine midnight missions to Taco Bell when I was on my diets back in the day too. So, yeah, man, I definitely would have needed a hardcore, watch guard kind of person to make sure that I'm on the up and up. Because it's so hard. I quit smoking so much easier than I was able to quit Taco Bell. Like, it took me a couple times to quit smoking. It took me like dozens of times to quit fast food. And I cannot stress that enough. Couple times to quit smoking, dozens of times to quit fast food. the comparison is not even close. Food, far more addictive than nicotine, in my opinion.
Wow. I mean, that's a big statement, right?
Sure.
Like for anybody listening, like there's something going on that's going into our food that also contributes to that too, right? They're making food taste so good that you just want to have it more and more. And I think that's a lot of people's issue. Food's not like how it's made in your house when you're
No.
eating out.
No, no, they know what they're doing and they're very good at it. Right down to just how much crunch is in your taco. How much salt is in those refried beans, just the right amount. I mean, and they do this. They have these test kitchens where they figure this stuff out, and it takes them years to perfect these recipes to get them to just the right what they call the bliss point, so that when you bite in, your brain reacts identically as it would to cocaine. I mean, there's a very famous study where they did brain scans of somebody using cocaine and another person, an overweight person, eating a donut, and the brain lights up identically. And so you tell me, what do you think's going to happen when you think that you can have that one donut after being successful on your diet forever? You wouldn't tell somebody that's, getting off of cocaine like, oh, you've been clean for 3 months, you can do just a little bit. No, what do you think's going to happen? They're going to fall off the wagon. They're going to start using again routinely. The same thing has happened to the majority of people who have gone on diets. Like, how many times do we go on a diet and think that we trick ourselves into thinking that we can have just one, and then that's it. That's all she wrote. Like, and then it's just like game on from there, and you lose
Yeah.
control, and it happens time and time and time again. But damn if we're not good at convincing ourselves that this time it'll be different. But it never is.
Yeah. That spiral, that just a downward spiral. I agree with you.
Yeah.
So
So
before I let you go, if people want to listen to the podcast or want to get a hold of you or have questions or anything, because your story is so moving about how you've turned your life around, or people, anybody struggling, how should we get a hold of you?
Well, you can always listen to the Exam Room on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get podcasts, on YouTube as well. I'm also hosting the Gut Insiders, co-hosting with my good friend Dr. Will Bolsowitz. That's on his YouTube channel, and then my social media is Chuck Carroll WLC. That's good for Instagram, Facebook, X, whatever. And yeah, just hit me up there. And by all means, please also sign up for my newsletter at chuckcarroll.com. Kind of keep people abreast on what's going on with my health situation now, and little look-ins on some shows and some exclusive interviews and fun things like that. So that's all at chuckcarroll.com.
Yeah, really quickly before I let you go, the surgery that you had this year,
Mm-hmm.
um, can you just briefly tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, we can run a little long. So I had been sick for, gosh, a while, and it was just getting worse and worse and worse. I mean, horrific bloating and GI symptoms, and then evolved and morphed into some neurologic symptoms where every day I was just feeling drunk and stoned. And this started about 3.5 years ago now. And it would intensify every time I would eat. And it got so bad that these symptoms were just kind of around the clock, and they would just last for days, even when I stopped eating, and got all the way down to like 112 pounds or something like that. It's just super 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 thin. And um and then when I forced myself to start eating again, like I ballooned. It was just like my metabolism went haywire, and I went from 112 to like two and change, and I had not been that heavy in forever, and I wasn't doing anything differently. Still eating a healthy plant-based diet, but my body was just betraying me at that point. And um and so finally, at the Mayo Clinic, where I wound up, because nobody else could figure it out, they floated the idea of doing gastric bypass reversal surgery. And so we did that, as we do this show, about 3 months ago. And I feel a lot better than I did. I'd say I'm about 60, 70% of where I was. So the symptoms have definitely subsided. A lot of the weight has come off as well. And so what they have found is that that portion of my intestines that had been rerouted had become just so scarred and stiff and just wasn't functional. That when they rerouted, or put my stomach back together, essentially, they a lot of the problems stopped because that diseased piece of tissue wasn't in there anymore. So we're hoping that we'll continue to see some improvement in time. But even if this is as good as it gets for me, I'll take this over where I was over the past 3 years, certainly. But the interesting thing is, like, people are like, well, you talk about how healthy a plant-based diet is, and you got so sick. And I was like, aha, I did. But you know what else the doctors told me was like, yeah, but think about if you were still eating your old way and this was happening. Like, then it, really you would have been up S Creek, and, we could have been looking at a potentially life and death situation. And don't get me wrong, there were days when I thought I was dying for sure. But, here I am, still recovering and losing weight and getting back to my old self. And every day, it's a choice to keep going and to, put one foot in front of the other, but we're going and we're making the choice and we've got the energy to do it. Would not have this energy if I was still living the way that I was. And so that's the big takeaway. It's not like, oh, the diet failed. It's like, no, man, the diet actually helped me, like, more than you can say. Like, yeah, it sucks, I still got sick, but man, it would have been so much worse if my body was in a different space.
That's amazing. So yeah, I mean, I follow you, so I've been watching your healing process, and like even just today, looking at you now, you look vibrant. You look so healthy compared to just a few months ago. You definitely can tell that you are on the right path to recovery, and I hope that that continues for you.
Well, thank you. I feel like my face is still so little puffy. I don't know, but we're our own worst critics. So,
Yes.
um, but thank you. I did see a picture yesterday of me, like around January, right before I started getting procedures done. And boy, yeah, that that's hard to look at. I never thought I'd find myself in a position to be over 200 pounds again, but there I was. I'm grateful to not be there today. So, yeah.
Yes. And I'm grateful that you spent some time with us today.
Thank you, my
I
friend.
appreciate you. I
I
appreciate you a
appreciate you.
lot.
Great meeting you, my
I
friend.
love that you're in this plant-based space with me.
Me too. And I appreciate the good mood foods because they always put a smile on my face, my friend.
That's my goal. That's my goal. Always,
Job done.
right? I want people to feel better. I want people to feel how I feel every day and how you are on your way to feeling every day too.
We're getting there. We're getting there. Proud of you, my friend. Thank you.
But I look forward to following you along on your journey, and we'll be in touch soon.
Sounds like a plan. Thank you.
All right, Chuck, thank you so much.